friends, and welcome to this episode of Chapters. Chapters is the show that profiles authors, editors, publishers, and folks around writing in the tri-state area. Today we're going just a little far afield and we're reaching out to Mary Ladd in San Francisco. And in her honor, I have put up a virtual background of San Francisco Bay. I'm Carter Seaton, and I'm your host, and I'm happy to be here, even if it is on Zoom today. We're still in pandemic mode, and but that gives us the opportunity to reach out to Mary Ladd and talk with her today. She is a freelance writer, former food column writer, and breast cancer survivor who lives in San Francisco with her husband, Oscar Villalon, and their son, Cipriano. It's the cancer that drove her to write her debut book, The Wig Diaries, which is what we'll talk about today. Mary Ladd is also the author of Write It Down, Coronavirus Prompts, and a contributor to the best-selling 642 Things to Write About book series and Lit Start's Little Books of Writing Prompts. She's written for Playboy, Time Magazine, and the San Francisco Chronicle. And one of the most exciting things I found out is that she collaborated with Anthony Bourdain on No Reservations, and she's a member of the Writers Grotto. While she's not from this area, her roots are. Her mother lived here, grew up here, went to Marshall, graduated, and was my longtime best friend. So it's kind of a welcome home to Mary Ruth. First, Mary Ruth, tell us a little bit about your early writing. You went to cooking school and you helped organize foodie events. How did that morph into writing?
Well, I went to cooking school because I was working in events, and one of my bosses said, "You're good at this, but I think you should do something with food and maybe food writing." And I was laid off from my job, and I decided to go to cooking school because they had a program where you can be an intern at a newspaper. And so I wanted to try that out with the San Francisco Chronicle. So I went and worked for the Chronicle for a few months and learned food writing there, and just started writing for other websites and publications. And yeah, I would cover chefs and do profiles and Lady Gaga's meat dress and all the trends and fun food festivals and very decadent, rich food, like a lot of events. So like beer and pizza and fancy stuff. So it was fun.
Did you get to sample it? That's the question.
All the time. Yes. And you have to photograph it, you know? So every meal, like my poor family would say, "You can't eat it yet. We have to take a photo of it." Yeah.
So that's a real public subject, and people love to read about food, but not cancer so much. So that's a really private subject, and I think probably most people don't want to talk about it. But your book also it doesn't make it funny, but it makes it makes you able to deal with it in on a way that makes you look at it irreverently. And I think that's healing, maybe, in a way to let other people know what cancer victims go through. Tell us, is that just your nature, or did you just make a conscious effort to approach it that way?
Well, it started out, folks in the community offered to help and bring food or deliver a pizza or things like that. And so to update them, and also I was getting all these messages, "How are you doing?" And I don't know how to answer that even now. I just started writing out stories of weird things that had happened. And I think that a sense of humor for me is a coping tool. Cancer is horrible, it's terrible, it's scary, medical bills and medical debt, and there's a lot of loss and grief, but I just found the humor in a lot of it. And I collaborated with an illustrator named Don Asmussen, and he had done 2 books already, and he does cartoons that are in newspapers throughout the country. And so he had cancer and sent me an email, and we started to email each other, and then we eventually met and decided, well, let's do a book together. And I thought that his illustrations would be a good counterpoint to, very complementary to the text.
Mm-hmm. So at what point did you decide to actually make it a book, and how did you go about that?
Well, I gotta say, I sent it to different agents. My husband is an editor, and he used to work at the Chronicle, and so I'd send it to folks, and it was very difficult there was a lot of rejection. So it would kind of be put on the back burner, so to speak. But people said, keep going, there's something there. Don't give up on it. And because with writing, there's rejection all the time. But so this is on a bigger level. And eventually a friend did a Kickstarter campaign where she raised money for her new magazine. Her name is Tamara Palmer, and she writes about music and food. And she encouraged me, why don't you give this a try? You could make 100 copies of your book and you get 100 people to buy it and then see where it goes. And so I did that. And then I set up the launch event with Litquake, which they put on events throughout California and other parts of the country and world. And so then I had these deadlines and people beyond my friendship circle and community who wanted to read it and wanted to share it and learn about it. And when someone was diagnosed, they'd say, I need a copy for my friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. I'm sure for you, it was cathartic to write about those experiences, either at the time or while you were trying to gather them back together, because by the time you put the book together, you had gone through all of those experiences, and your year of terribleness was probably at an end. Is that right?
Well, there was still more to add because I was so disfigured from the scars that I had missing body parts. I didn't have a left nipple. And so I did a chapter about going to a hot springs and then deciding to get tattoos. And yeah, so it's still kind of ongoing, and there could be more material for it. It's even though I'm not in active treatment, I still have to go every 3 months and get my blood and scans and things like that. Yeah. Could come back.
Right, I understand. What about the value of the book for other people? When you were doing this and you decided to publish it, did you also consider the altruistic value of it?
Yeah, the good news is there are so many organizations that offer help, financial support, programs, one-on-one, peer-to-peer support. And so even this week, I've reached out to 10 organizations, and they want to use part of the book for a newsletter or a blog post, maybe as a fundraiser where you spend a certain amount, donate a certain amount. So I want to help folks because I know what it's like to be afraid. I had terrible insomnia. I'd be in the middle of the night worrying, and also the grief and despair and sorrow of people that I have met who they died of it. It happens. And so there's still a way to help the folks who are still, maybe they were recently diagnosed and they want to know one experience of what it could be like.
Mm-hmm. Did it ever cross your mind after you decided to do this that, oh my God, what are people going to think of me when I put this book out, because it is so irreverent and you talk about things in many cases a really graphic way? Did you think, oh my God, what are they going to think?
Yeah, it's hard because it's like, well, everyone knows that I poop or I have problems pooping. That's weird. I don't know if I can look people in the eye when I have a high school reunion, right? But oh well, it helped. This is kind of the things that I talk about in support groups online with my friends who are going through it. Mm-hmm. We have all of these issues, and why have it be a stigma? Why have illness and death be something we can't talk about? I feel like it should just be another thing that maybe more people could talk about, and then they know they're not alone. I just don't want to feel as lonely and scared.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. I think that's good. So after you did the Wig Diaries, now we're in a whole nother situation which is affecting everybody in the world, and that's the coronavirus pandemic. Did you approach doing these prompts sort of like, well, writing helped me get through the cancer situation. Maybe if people write about their experience with COVID, it'll help them as well. Was that part of your thinking?
Yeah, because when I was sick, I was forced to stay home, and I would look out the window and I'd see people and I'd imagine they're going someplace amazingly fun and wonderful and they have no stress. And doing my writing, it's a way of processing things in real time, and it's therapeutic. There are so many studies that show writing things down helps you. And so as soon as I realized that most of the journals that were out were it would just say coronavirus journal, and you open it, it's blank. So some of the books that I've contributed to are, they are writing prompts, and I've taught them, and my students really enjoy looking at something they haven't thought of. So you can use it for fiction or poetry or nonfiction, but also it is a way to look back on your own life or your roommates, your family, and have some fantasy elements to it. What would you do if you won the lotto? I love thinking about that. And then, well, who would I help? I would use some of that money to, what groups would I help? So it gives me a sense of power when there really isn't a ton of that right now. We're pretty helpless, and there's so much uncertainty.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think you'll write next?
I'm working on a fiction project, and it's with a writer.
That's great.
Yeah, and so it's a fellow cancer person, and she and I met at a writing event, and we realized within 10 minutes that we had so much in common. And so this is there are characters, there's been a crime that's been committed, and there's a wig and DNA and characters. There's 8 characters, and they're throughout the country. And so we have a meeting later today. And so it's a lot of fun to collaborate with her. And we'll probably by July be finished with our book proposal and then get it to an agent. And so.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you're writing it collaboratively.
Yeah. And because I figure that's less scary. I always need someone else, like a lifeboat, help me with the writing. And so being accountable by having these regular meetings. And then Dawn and I are going to it'll probably look like this, but it'll be Wig and a Prayer, we think. And it's a cancer journal, and it'll have writing prompts because it'll be a lot of the same humor. So, so I owe him some prompts and ideas, and we can get that going.
Well, that's good. You're keeping yourself busy. That's great.
Yeah.
Tell us about working with Anthony Bourdain.
Well, he and I became friends because he met Oscar at the Book Expo, which is a large trade show. And that year it was in Chicago. And they stayed up all night talking, and Kitchen Confidential was just about to come out. And they stayed friends. And when Oscar and I were dating, No Reservations was on TV, and he said, "Oh, that's Tony." And he's like, "We went to," and he started talking about something here in San Francisco. And I said, "I'm sorry, did you just call him Tony?" And he said, "Yeah." And then he explained that they knew each other. And so I started sleuthing, well, when will he be in town again? And so whenever he would come in town, if he could, we would hang out and, go have drinks with him at his hotel, or give him a ride home from his book event, and go eat calves brains with him, things like that. So I collaborated with him on the Bay Area episodes that he did. And also, he had his speeches. And so I would give him statistics and information about, we have Popeye's chicken, and on Tuesday or whatever day they have their family pack where you can buy a whole bunch for a very low price. Or just explain to him, do you know what this means for like families are in need? Things like that. And so, yeah, he's someone who inspired. I've seen the way he inspires people, and he's someone that I look up to and miss and love. And it was a sad time for everyone to have him not be here anymore.
Yeah, true. Does anybody's work inspire you when you're writing? Your humor sort of reminds me of Irma Bombach. I don't know if you're old enough to remember any of her, but a book that's titled "The Grass is Greener over the Septic Tank" is definitely irreverent. Yep. And I was thinking about her when I was reading the Wig Diaries. Who are your favorite writers, and what kind of work do you gravitate to?
I grew up reading Irma Bombach, and I absolutely love her. And there's also that writer who wrote about, and now I have chemo brain right this second. He wrote about his illness, Christopher Hitchens. So I really studied his stuff because he would share these horrific details. I'm drawn to a little bit of everything. I love crime stories but being in the Writers Grotto, I think that they inspire me because there's 140 writers and they try different things. And so they're some of the ones that also encourage me. So folks like Laura Frazier and Vanessa Waugh, her novels and her columns and things like that. And then Daniel Handler, he has a great sense of humor, and his characters are fascinating, and the way he writes freehand on these notepads. So it's like taking their practices on how they continue their writing. Mm-hmm. And then Mary Roach, she's tackled so many topics that who knew they could be so fascinating and in great detail, and like leaves me wanting more. Mm-hmm. So anybody that leaves me wanting more.
Yeah, right. The Writers Grotto, is that a group that gets together on a periodic basis?
Well, we have office space, and there's 140 members, and so I have an office there, and we have folks that are New York Times bestsellers. A couple of some film folks are there. One of our writers, Shanti Sekaran, is now going to be part-time in Los Angeles to work on a TV show. And so it's interesting to see people continue their writing. But we have reading events, and since we're all working from home now, we are real active on Slack if you want to be, and keep up with book publicity. There's a book publicity group. There's a lunch group that I'm pretty involved with, where we bring in lunch guests. And so it's just this, so you don't have to, back to the don't want to feel alone, mm-hmm. A really good supportive community.
Yeah, I think that's a real strong motivation, particularly at this time.
Yeah.
Do you want to read a chapter from the Wig Diaries, one of the stories?
Sure. I'll read, this is chapter 5. It's called Wig Time. Months before I was diagnosed, I bought a wig and decided to try it out for a special date night. When my husband saw me in a jewel-colored blue dress with a long red wig on, he told me, "You look like a prostitute." I thought I looked like a curvy 1950s movie siren, or a gussied up version of maybe The Little Mermaid if she had a hot auntie. Cipriano told me I was a witch. Oops. That first wig is not subtle. The lengthened shade of hair probably too cran red bright to look normal and real. With any wig, I want to look like a more exciting version of myself, but after those witch hooker comments, I stow the wig messily in a cabinet without wearing it. Fast forward to having cancer. Most women wear wigs for 9 to 12 months when they are sick, yet fun and saucy information on buying and caring for wigs is tougher to find. I at first feel cautious about wearing a wig. Yet the idea of getting a stable of wigs helps me pretend I'm a mermaid, Beyonce, Andy Warhol, or Elizabeth Taylor, maybe all of the above. Shopping for a wig indulges my inner drag queen while literally making me hotter, sweaty hot. Maybe I seek a spring in my step because cancer makes me so tired. It's depressing. I shop for a wig as a treat when I wake up groggy from a 2-hour port surgery, which a tube is attached to the right side of my chest. The port is billed as a helpful way to take the bee-sting feel out of chemo and blood pricks. It's important to build fun distractions. That means telling myself, sure, I can read all the trashy gossip I want in the doctor's office. Celeb gossip jazzes up those earth tone rooms, often filled with pale, raspy, rickety patients. My wig shopping request confuses Oscar. He asks, "Shouldn't we go home so that you can rest?" That's no way to talk to a pushy patient who knows what she wants. I need to do this now. My hair is falling out, I say. Exhibit A, repulsive handfuls of hair in our shower drain. I feel so afraid and sad and mad at what I see in the mirror. Losing hair and being bald pushes my insecurity buttons. I don't look normal or feminine or like myself, or what I will soon come to think of as pre-cancer me. Chris Wilhite and her crew at the Friend to Friend shop helps me. I love that she has had cancer and knows my friends, Amy and Barbara. Chris seems to know my pain and what I'm going through. A darker wig doesn't feel as fun. It's close enough to my usual hair color. In my buzzy state, I home in on a short blonde number. Oscar says, "Blonde? Are you sure?" And he's not smiling. The staff members do not cringe when I try on these blonde wigs. None of them are trying to talk me out of anything my little sad heart desires. The women offer pleasing comments for one particular wig. I want to roll my eyes at the man in the room. So here's Dawn's illustration, and it says, choosing wigs is like choosing a puppy. Wait for that connection. If it happens with all of them, take them all home. And then the character me is saying, this red one loves me. And a woman with a apron that says wig shelter says, that one's not fixed. Wow, it really suits you, the staff offers. I feel puffy and drained, yet intrigued. The bright colors of the shop give me courage. Money's on my mind. I have so many bills. The shop will give me a wig for free. I wouldn't be here without that important factor. I don't have any extra money. Debating how and whether to take any time off work while juggling a mountain of medical debt is common for patients like me. While I browse, I forget, my body hurts, my brain is foggy. Instead of feeling sad about the cancerous rock in my breast, the blonde wig gives me something to look forward to. It's new and fresh. It's not scary. Maybe it's my new normal. Soon, I enjoy appreciative looks on the street as I sport my blonde number. Hey everyone, I wore this same dress last month and you didn't even notice. I'll end with that.
That's great. That's really cool. Did you have any input on the drawings, or were they all Dawn's ideas?
We would meet at a food court and just go over, here's what I'm thinking, here's some of the text. So, but it was him, and there's nothing I would want to change.
They're really wonderful. I
Yeah.
appreciate those so much. So when do you think you'll have your book finished, and what can we look forward to as a title? And
Oh, for the new one?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it was going to be called Hair Farms, because there are some hair farms, but we changed it to Weave. So the working title is Weave, and I would think we finish it by the end of this year, maybe sooner. We're so dedicated, and having these weekly meetings means I can't say, oh, I'd rather watch some more TV, I'd rather go cook or like whatever, be at the grocery store buying whatever, ice cream.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a real pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being on with us, and we hope maybe you'll make it to West Virginia after this is all over and we can hear you read out loud.
Thank you, Carter. And I have great memories of Huntington and being in the area, and it's family, it's home, and so I really appreciate the chance to be with you all today. And I do hope to be there in person when we can.
Absolutely, right.
Yeah, much love.
So that's all we have for today. And I really appreciate Mary Ladd doing us with Zoom. And before we go, I want to ask you to tell viewers how they can get your books.
Oh, okay. All the information is at maryladd.com. You can get the Wig Diaries online. Bookstores can order it. It's available on that giant website that sells books as well. And then for Write It Down, this is a special, it's available at one bookstore right now called Green Apple Books, but you can buy it online. The website is called lulu.com. And that's how you can. And send me any emails. I love hearing from people, questions. I love supporting other people and helping other people keep writing.
Okay. So that's on your website, maryladd.com.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So
Thanks again.
Thank you. We hope to return to the Inner Geek and live interviews soon, but right now we also encourage you to come down to the Inner Geek, which now has opened, and get books from the other people that you've seen on Chapters. Thank you so much for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you again. And take care, Mary Ladd.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Connect with Chapters through email. Write to lp4@zoominternet.net. Chapters has a Facebook page at Armstrong Chapters. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. All Chapters episodes are available on YouTube. Visit the Armstrong Neighborhood channel on YouTube and look for a playlist of all the Chapters programs.